Hey, Mitch.
Dude,
How's it going?
it's summer, man.
I love the summertime.
It's summertime.
And the living is easy.
Yep.
I don't like how the sun is starting to get up really early.
Oh, I love it.
I'm a morning person. I
Me
really
too.
am. But I really like this is gonna sound weird. I like waking up in the dark.
Hmm.
It makes me feel like I woke up even
Early.
earlier. You know what I
Ooh,
mean? It makes me feel like I woke up
yeah.
early. And now I wake up and the sun's, creeping out. It's like, dang it, I slept in, but I didn't sleep in.
No, I like that.
So anyway, so we're here. We're talking. We're finishing up the
We live,
series.
yeah. We live too far north. I like to live farther south.
I'd like to live further north.
I like to live further south. I'd like to be down at the equator. Just
Ooh,
consistent.
very
Just
warm.
consistency.
Very warm and very moist.
Consistency.
Consistency.
Just consistency.
You can go to Antarctica and be consistent too.
You
Cold.
could. Yeah, but I mean daylight and stuff.
Oh,
Is it consistent there?
I don't know. I should. I feel
You
like
want
I
to be
should know.
You want to be farther north where you can see the northern lights?
Oh yeah, I love the Northern
You
Lights.
can see them here.
We did. We could see him here like a week ago. They made it. They made it all the way. Well,
I mean, my cell phone camera could see them here.
yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I saw a haze.
I forgot. But we were outside anyways, so we should have seen it if you could see it with your eye. But I guess it
I
was so
texted you.
light you couldn't. Did you?
Yeah.
What'd I say?
I said take a picture with your phone, man.
Oh, I probably was already asleep at that point.
I don't
Anyway.
know. I'm going to have to go back to the tape on that one.
Going back to the tape. So we're finishing the sermon series, Where the Light Is. Trying to loosely look at some John Mayer songs and pick some theological discussionary. Is discussionary? Is that a word?
No,
Not
discretionary
discretionary,
is a
but
word.
discussionary points out of it. And so we're looking at this is kind of a complex. It's kind of a complex topic because it's really about why does evil exist in the world, right?
Well, I mean, I have an answer.
Well,
Free will,
yeah,
Keith.
okay, into the
Bingo.
podcast. Let's
Yep,
see you
there
guys
you go.
later.
Close it. Yep. Oh, didn't even get into the sands of time.
No, didn't even.
See?
So
You don't got to be a layman to figure that out.
So the kind of question, if God's all good, then why does He allow evil to exist? Basically, right? And the short answer is free will, right?
Short answer for real. Well, look,
But I have a longer explanation to it than that. But I first want to talk about when you have experienced, we just talked about a little bit about the Northern Lights, right? It's pretty amazing effect. Sometimes when I think I sent, maybe I didn't send you a picture, but I was out on my back porch this weekend. Kids were playing in a little kiddie pool. Had a little snack tray out. Had some music going.
did you make one of those salami roses?
No, this was a quick. Like kids are hungry before dinner. I had some grapes, had some cheese, had some crackers. That's it. But we have made those before.
Oh my gosh,
They're great. Anyway, so we're sitting there, and these clouds, were like just slowly drifting across, and they were all those like just look small little poofy clouds, right? And they were like disappearing in front of us, right? You'd have this big poofy cloud, and then as it slowly drifted, it would just disappear, right? And I'm just sitting there, and I'm just awing at the
at creation.
the beauty of it,
Because, yeah, and what always gets me about that is all the things that have to line up so perfectly for any of that to even be possible. Like our distance to the sun.
Yeah.
Like, it's the only thing, like, just a skosh in or a skosh out, not possible.
Not possible.
And
I mean, heck, like even look at our planet, right? We were just talking about Antarctica, right? Like our planet's tilted in such a way that just even the size of our planet off from the sun, and life's terrible to exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's crazy to think about. And I can't just as a side note, I can't fathom anybody who's a scientist or into science that learns about all this stuff and just believes that it just happened.
Just poof.
Out of random smashing of molecules together created all this. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But I digress. So I was back there this weekend and I was just admiring it. I had to take a picture of it and I sent it to some friends. And I don't think I sent it to you. And I was just like, one of those things that I think that if you saw the picture, you'd be like, oh, cool, it's your backyard. You know, you had to be there to feel it, to experience it, to just awe at it, you know? And so I think about that a lot. And I just think that that's like such a great example for me of God's goodness in life, of just having that, just even the time to just sit and enjoy some of God's creation with the family, right? What about you? Tell me about a time that you've experienced. I mean, obviously mine was a very small, trivial kind of matter,
Well,
but
and
tell me about a time you've experienced God's goodness.
well, so I think it comes down to gratitude, and the more grateful we are for all the small things that we have, the goodness of God is more apparent, and you can choose to take things for granted, or you can choose to be grateful of if all those little things that added up went the other direction. And so like just any of the, like when you see flowers, like we have this plant. Did I ever tell you my wife likes to move plants around?
Yes.
Have I told you this?
I think you told our listeners this
All
too.
right. So she likes to move plants around.
Hasta la vista,
Yeah.
going across the yard.
Yeah, hosta. You hosta, me hosta. Sue hosta, C hosta, right?
Yeah,
Just-
yeah.
And moving things around. And we have some trees. We have, and I've had this plant, this oak leaf hydrangea that's had 5 different places it's lived in its life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
You're shocking the plant every time you move.
oh,
it.
but it's a well-traveled plant.
Yeah.
Right? Like this guy's
Yeah.
it's got some mileage.
Yeah.
And he was one of those things that's probably like baked on the side of like a box store garden center, like
yeah.
half dead on
Yeah,
clearance to
yeah,
begin with,
yeah,
right?
90% off because
Yeah,
it's pretty much
Because
dead.
it's brown, right? No, I'll put it in the dirt and throw some water on it and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, you move this for the first time ever. It bloomed.
This year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's in the right amount of sun.
Yeah.
The right amount of sun that
Just
it
the
wanted.
right amount.
Just the right amount of things.
Yeah.
Right? I've given it plenty of water. It's been in fresh soil. But now, this year, this season, everything aligns. It's got the right amount of sun.
Yeah.
Where it is, boom, blooms. Beautiful blooms.
Amazing. You know what? Actually, on a similar story, what actually makes me mad is I have this rose bush that I can't get rid of. I just can't get rid of this thing. I mean, I've hacked it, I've slashed it, I've tried to dig it up, and it just comes back every year. It's right. The problem is it's right next to our stairs, going up to the front door, and it just gets so big. And the thorns just catch people's pants.
You know what they say? Every rose
has a thorn.
It is.
And so, anyways, you can just think of like the reverse of that, right?
And that's
Nature,
perspective.
God's
your perspective.
universe just
Like-
keeps growing this bush.
Yeah, it's
know?
the perseverance
Perseverance.
of this.
And the same thing with the hydrangea. It's perseverance throughout the season, and it's finally found its spot, and then it thrives. like this rose bush has found its spot next to my stairs, and it thrives. I don't get it. I don't get it. I have a tree in the front yard. I had a tree in the front
So
yard.
I think that's it. I think that's my small thing.
Yeah.
Seeing things
nature.
and people thrive
Yeah.
where the odds are stacked against them.
Oh yeah.
That I see
Yeah. I'm with you. We got a tree. I was gonna tell a different story, but I'm gonna tell this other story. We got a tree. When my wife's grandfather passed, he gave all the grandkids just a little bit of money, like not much, right? And like $100 or something, right? And so we were like, well, how do we honor him? And so my wife's like, maybe we should plant a tree. It was a great idea, right? So we went and bought this tree with the money, and it was probably 6 foot tall, maybe slightly taller at the time. It was an oak tree, right? So we were kind of not very smart with the tree decision. Should have bought a maple; it grows a lot faster. But we're like, this oak, sturdy,
Solid, sturdy,
sand-
yeah.
We'll make it over time, right? And planted this oak tree, man. And for like the first 2 years, we just constantly thought it was going to die in this spot, right? But yeah, man, year 3, all of a sudden, and now this thing's like probably 20, 25 foot tall, and if you don't, experiencing that, like planting it and going through the seasons of like wondering if it's going to make it and what can we do to help it and all that kind of stuff, and then it just thriving on its own, that it just decides like, well, I can't move from here, so I'm just gonna I'm gonna make do with what life's given me, boop, and just grows, right? Anyway, so yeah, man, that was good. I like that. So I think that for me, trying to backtrack a little bit and look at the topic. I think that and we've discussed this on this podcast quite a bit, right? And I look at my life with my parents, and then also as a parent, my life with my kids, right? And when my kids were younger, I told them what to do, right? Like I made sure they stayed out of trouble, right? They didn't touch the hot stove, like with my 5-year-old. Every time he comes out when I'm grilling, he wants to be out with me, and every single time he opens the door, stay away from the grill, it's hot. Stay away from the grill, it's hot. Stay away from the grill, it's hot. When he's 50, I'm not going to tell him that the grill's hot.
Oh, he's going to tell you that.
Yeah, he probably will. Dad, stay away from the grill.
Stop.
It's hot.
Nope, you're done.
But you know what I mean? Like, so at a certain point, you grow and you evolve as a human being, and your parents go from, and we've talked about this personally, and on the podcast, you parent from, you're an advisor, you become an advisor.
Become a coach. You start coaching, move into the coaching phase.
More than anything else. And then later you become, a trusted advisor and whatnot. And I think about my relationship with God in that instance, right? And in that framework, where there's been times in my life, especially out of college, right, where I wasn't necessarily financially stable, right? And there's been a couple times where, car repair, just didn't have the funds for it. Mom, Dad, can you help me out with a loan or something? Yeah, sure. Here's the money, no interest loan, blah, blah, blah. Parents help bail you out, right? There's been times that they probably would have told me, no, you need to figure it out on your own, right? Because they try to teach you that lesson, Definitely there's some times in college where maybe I had a conflict with a professor or a conflict with a staff member or something like that. And you you go to them for advice, and they've been like, "Well, I think you probably just need to figure this one out. I think you know what to do, so I'm really not going to give you any advice." You know what I mean? Like, and I think that my relationship with God is similar in that way, which is I can come to Him with my issues and my problems, and feel better about being able to talk through those things with Him. But it doesn't mean that He has to act, right? And I'm not saying that everything that happens in our life is some grand lesson
No, for
that
sure.
God is trying to teach you. But I think that it's at some point in our existence, God has let us, like your hydrangea and like this tree, to thrive and to figure its way on its own, right? And that God helps you to be in the right position to thrive. But at the end of the day, it's on you to thrive or not, right? And you and I have talked about it a lot. I think attitude has a lot to do with most situations than anything else.
Well, and that comes back to the coaching stuff is, because in sport, right? I think sports are microcosms of life, and that's why we all love them so much. But I can talk about that for a long time. But so then coaching is this, athletic coaching is this microcosm of life coaching. And for years, I've been around lots and lots of different coaches, and lots of them have a version of the exact same thing that they try to instill in all ages of children is the two things you can control is your attitude and your effort. Like
Right. Yep.
all sorts of things are out of your control. The variables, the wild range of variables in sport and in life are out of your control. And we talked about control a while back. It's one of our vices, right? Is this need to be in control and to have control and have the fallacy of control, right? If we can think we're in, shoot, you can do that with parenting sometimes. You can just give them the illusion that they're in control and everybody's happy. But the things you can actually control are your attitude and your effort. And that comes from, and that's a hard skill to cultivate. And there's so many different levels of, from the mundane to just horrific circumstances that people are in life. And, there's books about Holocaust survivors that write about, attitude and effort, and how could anybody have a positive mindset in those hellish situations? Some of that stuff's unfathomable.
Yeah.
But they were able to survive and thrive because of, somewhere along the way they've gained the skill of being able to have that mindset of controlling their attitude and their effort.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that comes back. It can come back to that gratitude as well. So if you can identify something good, it can help. It can help transform the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I mean the easy answer of why does evil exist in the world is because of free will. God
And I don't
allows
think-
us to freely act.
Yeah,
right?
and I don't think a lot of people understand that as the easy answer, though. I think
It's not an easy answer, but
I
it's
think-
the short answer, right? Like,
Well, it's a short answer
it's the
that
short answer.
But
Like you don't. Here's the thing: you don't want your kids to love you because they have to.
yeah, well, yeah. Let's back it up. We'll get to that point in a minute, but just look at it this way. Like, let's go back to your rose bush, right?
Yeah. Stupid rosebush.
Right? The stupid rose bush, right? Well, you have the free will. You've maimed this thing.
Yeah.
You've hacked at it.
Oh,
You've
you have no
chopped
idea.
it. You
Killed this thing so many times.
yeah, you have exercised your dominating free will upon this
Yep.
this living being, right?
Yeah,
You have.
I have.
viciously.
Viciously.
You know,
Every year.
you're acting out of your free. From the Rose's perspective, it's like, why does this evil exist, right?
Hey, I'm doing. Ow! That was
Yeah,
my leg.
yeah. Well, it's because of you have this free will. Like if God overwhelmingly compelled you to not act on that, then it wouldn't be free will.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it does. You.
It would be modulated will.
Yeah. I mean, like, what would life be, and how could you enjoy the goodness of God in those moments of the clouds disappearing on my back porch if my life was just constantly directed like by God telling me what to do? Keith, get up. Keith, go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? Like you have to have some amount of free will to just exist.
Yeah, it's moving from a childlike state and progressing up that
Yeah.
up the sentient being ladder.
Yeah. And I look at the example of my kids. Like my 5-year-old, when if there was a basketball camp or a t-ball camp or something, we'd take him to it, and then we'd sit there and watch him, make sure that he's okay, right? Maybe correct him if he's having a little attitude and throwing a glove and a hat down.
All hypothetical.
All hypothetical. But my almost 13-year-old, if there's a camp and the adult is sponsoring and there's multiple adults there, I just drop her off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to sit there unless I want to and watch. But she's old enough.
Her free will gives
will,
her options and choices.
She
to
could
choose
do. She could
and
leave.
Act.
She could leave that camp and hitchhike to California, right? But she's not going to because but she has the free will. She could do it right now if she wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
but she won't because she has the age and the maturity and the wisdom to understand what she needs to do, and then the endless possibilities. There'd be consequences for all these endless possibilities of what she could do with her free will, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, I just think that people that can't. I've never had a problem grasping this concept.
I haven't either.
I've never had a problem grasping this concept. And I'm not saying that I've had incredibly horrible things happen to me, but I've definitely been in bad situations before, and I've experienced evil. I've done some evil. I did some evil driving my daughter to basketball camp this morning. I definitely maybe said a few cuss words at a vehicle.
You were right behind me pulling in here this morning. I didn't have my blinker on. I thought that was bad.
I also like shot the gap in between when you pulled in that the other car was coming.
Yeah.
It was kind of clipping kind of fast. And so like I didn't really signal or brake and I just whipped it in here.
Ooh.
Probably shouldn't have done that. But like think of this, right? Just think of real quick the evil that you've done in your life. Right? Because of your free will.
I don't got to say it out loud right now, do I?
I just used the example of this morning, and think about all the times that you may have gotten frustrated at another driver, right? Because they weren't driving the way that you wanted them to drive.
Oh, it's usually always my fault.
Right.
So I'm usually the apologetic driver.
Oh, okay. But you know what I'm talking about, though.
Like the wave.
It's like, sorry.
Like
sorry. I like the two-handed shrug.
Oh, you're the guy that needs to take your hands off the wheel.
Like,
get a hand.
My bad.
Get a hand back on the wheel.
Do you ever touch yourself too and go, my bad?
My bad.
But yeah, I mean, like think of like the countless people in my youth that I might have extended inappropriate finger to driving because they did something dumb.
Never done that.
Right? Never?
Mm-mm.
Oof. I did a couple times in my youth. I mean, just and that to me, that is you ever argued with somebody and been curt with them, right?
Short.
Short. Like, think of all the things that you've done that the other person could be look at you and go, man, that guy pretty evil.
I think of that about you a lot.
Yeah, I know. Most people do. I think so. I mean, just think of that. Think of all those examples in your life where you have done something evil to someone else.
And that's changing that perspective. So that's like that next step with the gratitude, but it's also that perspective change, changing your perspective to having that empathy to rationally understand the different perspectives to different situations. And I think coming back to your parenting perspective, right? And then our spiritual perspective as being spiritually infants and then growing in relationship with God and maturing. Whenever you look at God's perspective with an eternal perspective, our blip of time can also shape how we face hardships.
Yeah.
My mother said something my entire life, and it got less and less annoying the older I got until I've started embracing it.
Yeah.
And it was, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
So when I'm upset, right, like, this too shall pass. Like, not what you want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to hear that. But the more you hear it in context of things that pass,
Yeah.
emotions that pass, situations that pass, experiences that pass,
Relationships that end.
passed, and you heal or change or grow or advance from, and you realize it did in some way, shape, or form passed. It metamorphosized, it changed, but something, it's not, what you're experiencing does not experience at the same intensity for perpetuity.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
I haven't experienced something yet that has.
Yeah. And I think that it's a very hard concept to grasp. It's like my middle schooler. I try to tell her, like, middle school will be such a blip in your lifespan that you will probably only remember 10 events at most, from your middle school by the time you're 50, right? But in the moment, it's your everything, right? And so I just think that that perspective is hard until you've had a lot of time to experience. To your point, a lot of time to experience things ending or bad things happening, and then your life becomes better afterwards. Yeah, I think of somebody that I knew that ended up getting diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, right? And
That's
terrible,
horrible.
terrible disease. Don't really know what causes it either, right? Like, there's not like, if somebody gets lung cancer because they smoked for 40 years of their life, right? You're kind of like, well, we know what caused that. But with MS, they don't know. And, it's such a wide range too of, like, there's people that could live with MS for 40 years and not really experience a whole lot of discomfort in their life. And there's some that, 5 years into it, they're totally debilitated, right? Debilitated. Anyway, they would constantly kind of say, I didn't ask for this to happen to me. I didn't ask for this to happen to me, right? And I just always, it always struck me because, like, I understand that, but it goes back to that attitude and effort, and their attitude just wasn't really great with it, and definitely their effort, their lifestyle to try to minimize the impact of it wasn't great either, and they just kind of rapidly declined, and I feel bad in those instances because you try to be positive with them and you try to help them through it, but to your point, it's like it's what is there and now, and it's really difficult to get past it, right? And that's one of those things that, like, it's not going to change. You're not going to get healed from MS. Like,
Yeah.
you're always going to live with it, but you got to get past that fear, that anxiety, that
And the only way I
that
know,
point.
and the only way I know how to frame any of that is with faith. And I know for some folks that's not.
It's not a great
It's
answer.
not a rational answer. For me, it is.
Yeah.
With my faith, it becomes a rational answer. But faith as Jesus is our teacher, our leader, our guide, or that parenting model of how to live. If I can follow and live in a way he coaches, then within that perspective, I'm trusting in the goodness of the promise of that this too shall pass, even if what that is terminal on this side.
Yeah.
It's not terminal on all sides,
Right.
and that's just hard. That's
It
just
is.
just there's no way to sugarcoat that, but to say that I feel, for me, having faith that this isn't it is much better than having faith that it is.
Well, yeah, and I think that I've heard people kind of describe it. There's a popular hymn that says, when basically talking about heaven, when we've been there for 10,000 years, right? Like, it's still going to be great, right?
It's Amazing Grace.
Oh, is it really? Oh, yeah. Then it is famous.
It's kind of, some people, maybe you've heard of it.
My brain is not functioning today that great, because of that darn car this morning just got me out of whack.
Geez.
I think that when you think about eternity, this time here and your struggles here are really minuscule in comparison to the time that the universe has existed, right? You know what I mean? Like, think about
And we got this small microcosm of it whenever you're, to you and I are years of, as 10 years is quarter of life.
yeah.
For a 4-year-old, 1 year is a quarter of life.
Yeah.
It's ratios.
Yeah, it really is. And so I just think that you're right. True.
Hey, let's
faith.
end the podcast.
No. I think in those moments, I think the key is in those moments of frustration or doubt or anxiety about something or whatever, something's affecting you, that evil is affecting you or whatever, you have to go back to the goodness of God. You have to think back to those times where you've experienced the goodness of God and realize at that point that you do have faith, that the struggling that you have will end, right? And it's hard to see the goodness of God in those moments, but you have to focus on it, right? You have to find those places and those things, activities that then help you re-experience the goodness of God that then re-energizes your faith.
Have you ever seen your kids struggling with stuff? Right?
Yeah, I have 3 kids. They seem to
Yeah.
struggle all the time.
Yeah, but
I saw my 13-year-old struggle with reading for several years. Tried to help her. And now she reads a book in like 2 days.
Well, my son was trying to open the jar of pickles. He's turning into a man. And,
Yeah. Struggling.
well, yeah. But it was a good struggle, right? It was a good struggle. And he passed it off to his brother, and he struggled for a while. But
You got to double tap it on the counter.
but they're all things they could learn if they asked
Yeah.
for some help. And I think that's an important thing too, that in your prayer and petition to God, like the experience of handing the pickle jar to Dad, even the jar's not open yet, but you feel better handing it over.
Mm-hmm.
You've tried and you've tried and you've tried, and you can't break the seal. The pickle jar lid is stuck. The pickles ain't coming out.
Yeah. But
Right?
sometimes, as a dad, you say, "You got this."
Oh, yeah, and you encourage, keep working. But when it's not working out, there's a couple different ways you can just hand it over, and just maybe the pickle,
You get mad and smash the pickle jar on the ground.
maybe the pickles aren't ever coming out. Okay.
Yeah.
But just handing that over is cathartic, gives you, maybe that's all you need. And you have to trust, you have to have faith that that's all you need.
That's it.
And sometimes Dad will hold the bottom of the jar so you can get both hands on the lid.
Yeah.
And sometimes that
Yeah.
works.
You just grip it really good. That's it. That's all the time we got. We didn't
Man.
even call anybody.
That's all right. I'm going to use that pickle analogy. Stay tuned. That pickle analogy,
Oh, it's coming back.
that's coming back.
Oh, it's
that's
coming
in a
back.
sermon somewhere.
Yeah. Have you ever, just as a side note, have you ever changed your dinner plans because you couldn't get a jar open or something? Or are you like one of those guys where you go down to the garage and get the pipe wrench and crank that sucker open?
Glass jars are tricky sometimes.
Too much pressure.
Use the back of the knife handle and smack around the edge.
See, I do the I
some
do the same
artichokes.
thing. You just tap.
Yeah,
on
same
the
deal.
thing.
Mhm. Yeah, for some reason. Or hot water on the lid. So
Yeah.
you run the hot water, the metal of the hot water.
Getting a little expansion.
They'll get a little expansion there.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that working. I've definitely thought about changing some dinner plans. I can't remember specifically, but there was a time recently that both Shauna and I could not get this jar of whatever open. I mean, like whatever, and then you blame it's your hands. Oh, my hands are wet. Then you get the towel, and then it's just slipping and sliding. I think we did have to do that. I think I held it while she cranked on it, or vice versa, or something. It's terrible. Anyway, that's it. That's all the time
All
we
right.
got.
Yeah, have a good one, guys. Love you.
See ya.
Bye.